This is episode 1 of a podcast called Retrospectus. It's a retrospective that focuses on different media from art, music, film, books. And I want to take a more philosophical, analytical approach, since that's my background prior to finance and business. Taught at the university level and really love the notions that come forward when you analyze really any work, from the classics to contemporary pieces, but this same set of skills or tools can be used to unpack and evaluate really anyone, anytime, anywhere, so that you can see life, art, people differently, because there's a story to be told almost everywhere. There's value to be beheld almost always. The problem is that we get so transfixed through the lens of what's familiar that it becomes, or at least feels, almost impossible to step outside of that frame of thinking and get a fresh perspective through a new set of eyes. So hopefully this podcast will allow you to see things from a broader scope, to incorporate ideas that you had not yet considered, maybe plant some seeds or give you the impetus to do some research on your own into certain thinkers, perspectives, philosophies, even spiritual and more pragmatic ways of thinking that you had never been introduced to. One thing that I like to do when reviewing much of anything is to assess my own response to the piece. To have a real experiential, true-to-life account that I'm relaying in a simple and honest way. I think all too often, analysis is a cold rubric, a hot knife that's going to cut through too much juicy stuff, and we're not going to be able to appreciate the art, voices of different authors across time and space. I think this is valuable and almost necessary in order to build a holistic model of reality, which for us and me, your host, Doriculus Prime, is the number one objective. We really want to dive into what brings us clarity, what obscures that clarity, and what's the deviation between the two? What's holding us back from being able to reconcile the differences between our truths, beliefs, perspectives, perceptions, and how can we ultimately grow into a larger, better, and more true understanding of reality. So, the piece that we're covering today is Sausage Party. Yeah, I know, it sounds goofy, but I love this movie. A zany cast of characters, from a sausage to a jar of honey mustard to a douche and a bottle of liquor called firewater. And these different grocery store items have their own preconceived notions, some more isolated, others as a more consensus view. And one of those consensus views is this concept of the great beyond, which is the unknown, what's outside of the grocery store. Toward the beginning of the movie, one of these items is purchased. The character is Honey Mustard, and Honey Mustard is taken to the home of one of the gods, but he's in for a surprise. The story takes a wild turn because these aren't benevolent gods ferrying people into a heaven of sorts. No, it's a hellacious, vicious scene of soul consumption and murder that traumatizes Honey Mustard to the extent that he's willing to fight his way back to his tribe, to his society, to impress upon them the truths that he has discovered for their safety. But he's met with a whole lot of resistance because he's challenging the way of thinking that undergirds the entire grocery store society. And even though there are different communities, their different views hinge on a central notion of life beyond the store. But not everyone is so quick to judge his story. Not everyone has the same response to honey mustard. And we get to see, through different eyes, the reaction to hard truth, through Douche, through Frank the Sausage. I think we can bring into the picture a couple thinkers who artfully represent the sentiments of those characters on a more philosophical playing field. The first of which is Nietzsche. Now, if you don't know much about Nietzsche, he is a scathing critic of a lot of ideas. However, his sharp mind and tongue cannot so easily be dismissed because his critiques are so effective that even if you don't agree with him, you have to agree with the spirit of his approach. And even if the ultimate takeaway from Nietzsche's philosophy is borderline, if not 100% unhinged nihilism, the tools on his tool belt are so necessary, I think, to build a more practical model of the world. Because a lot of the times we think we have something figured out. It's based on what we've been told second, third, fourth hand from someone. And we will build our whole lives around a vague sense of what someone's vague sense of what someone's vague sense of something was. So it really is valuable to be able to saw through all of those layers to get through the kernel, to see what the spark of truth really is. Douche certainly takes a Nietzschean approach to this new information, wanting to rebel not only against the other characters, but ultimately unto himself, with a more destructive, antisocial, and violent set of behaviors. He's really drunk on and eaten up by the sense of betrayal that he is experiencing. Now, some of the other characters have a much softer interpretation to this new information, a more helpful, useful, and valuable feedback loop. And one of those is the namesake character, Frank the Sausage, who he's in love. And this ideology, this worldview, reminds me more of Hume, the Scottish philosopher, who said that it's not really, through our heads, our minds, our psyches that we are, with which we're navigating through life. No, it's more our hearts, right? Our passions, our drives, our interests, our, what grabs us. That is pulling us through and to the next thing, person, place, hobby, interest. And I think you see Hume shining through Frank's character in a way that shines a light on the interconnectedness of people, places, and ideas that really rather well frames not only the great beyond as something that doesn't have to be oppressive, even if it's not what we expected, because there's a truth that's so loud that really defines his lived experience. And that is love, right? Frank has fallen in love. He has a love that's guiding him forward, that's motivating him. It's more of a stimulus that's coaxing him in a very playful and helpful way through the gauntlet of adversity and the prospect of destruction, because the idea, the value, the truth of love is so strong, there's no room left for stalling, for bickering, for anything other than what love wants, which is togetherness, right? So Frank's gonna fight his way through, maybe guided a bit by some of the other characters' inspiring anecdotes and insights. But ultimately, Frank, the sausage in our story, finds what he is looking for because he allows it. And I think if we could all be a bit more like Frank and a little less like the douche, we'd all be a lot happier. So that's all I've got for you on Sausage Party. Hope you've enjoyed it. Catch you in the next episode.